yes, it could be that. It could be that, sacrificial thing that, Vietnamese teams need to do. And because it's the playoffs, maybe it's not just one game. They're like, oh, you need to lose a series this time. And you have to make a lower bracket run. So maybe that's it. That's what they need to proc in order to win this series. I mean, I'm for it. I believe it. Yeah.
Sure.
But I do have something to ask though, as we're entering the Champ Select right now and the initial bans and picks are coming in. One team, they tend to keep running Vi. And we know that Vi hasn't exactly been a favored champion here in the C Champs. Is this something that they need to drop? Do they need to hop off of the Vi train? What do you think, VG?
Yeah, I think Vi is useful in specific situations and circumstances where it does not do well in against champions such as the Camille, such as the Ahri. Champions that can disengage and pull you away from your team is where it significantly suffers. And when you have no other form of follow-up, if your team is not prepared to really dive in hard with you, then that's where you're gonna face an issue. We do start to see though Camille come across with Divine Esports, and naturally one team will get that first rotation. Varus, the fact that they're going for this Galley was interesting. It's a bit of a flex, but I expect Baya to lean more towards it because she was been playing a little bit better on stuff like this, the Enchanted supports, but he does play a pretty good Galley Rakan as well.
Divine Esports are actually just pivoting entirely away from getting Lee Sin for Len, and with Darius locked in, there's no other role that the Camille can go other than the jungle, so I think Len is starting to just take a less of a risk in the early game where we saw so much confidence before that, Len would just be able to get his hands on Lee Sin and just snowball the early game, but just based on maybe the way that the past series against EVOS went, he's saying, you know what, I just want to take the scaling matchup, I'm going to ensure that I take the Camille, and so no matter what happens in the early game, I'm still a powerful split pusher the later the game goes.
Ooh, what a skill check. One team are coming in big with the Riven Lee Sin, and well, Divine and Franklin just curious to see what they're gonna respond with. I mean, Braum is a nice response, but it doesn't really block a lot of the damage from one team. They're ready to jump onto you. I guess Glacial Fissure could be used to try and find some form of disengage. I mean, Quay is going to be that full secondary engage for the team, so I don't quite like it still overall. But I mean, Rafa, you've been on the desk a lot now. You've seen a lot of these drafts. I'm sure you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, we have to look at the elephant in the room is that Divine Esports let the Varus priority go through over to one team and gave Ninja such a comfort priority pick for a Camille. And this is not a pick that we've really seen that much prioritize that much for Divine Esports. Usually it's been the likes of Renekton or Lee Sin or even Riven, and they let that all go. And it's really just to put Len into the driver's seat of a champion that as soon as they get past the 5-minute mark, you're gonna have Trinity Force on Camille, and I'm really thinking that Len just looked at what Valdez did on the Fiora and just said, you know what? There's no point in trying to put myself on a timer in the early game. I'm just gonna try to scale and out-split push one team.
Well, we're gonna see if one team can prevail or if Divine Esports is going to start their lower bracket run right here, right now. This is game number 1. Casters, over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Mika. Welcome everyone to Divine Esports versus one team, their first match here in the lower bracket. And Rico, I'm excited for the series. This is something that we want to see, especially we're looking at Lee Sin, Xianyo, Kid with Riven, Tonex with Darius. These are champions that these players are comfortable with.
Yeah, this is for one team a very strong early to mid-game composition. And meanwhile, what Rafa mentioned, Len taking a page off of Valdez's book, where okay, Len's gonna just scale alongside with Hope 1 as well. So the dynamic is gonna be a little bit different now because Hope 1, meaning rather not Hope 1, Coyote rather, is gonna opt for more of that little bit of that punish potential on that level 5. If one team so desires to do something else, hold that thought.
Yeah, Divine Esports going very aggressive in this early matchup. 40 seconds into the game, we're going for the 4v3. Now the flash won't be burned by Len. That's the stun, but Quest still gonna be alive, but Baya just dashes in. But look at Tonex, goes for the apprehend, puts him in, Ignite's gonna burn him down, not gonna be enough. First blood for one team.
It looked so good on Divine's book. I was choosing between paper or book. I don't know why I hesitated there. But because level 1 Divine is so good, you have the passive stacks of Quay on this Braum. You've got the gold card. but it seemed like they had a little bit of hesitation. They didn't have any target priority as well. So once Kid came in with that AoE stun, it practically backfired.
Yeah, and on top of all that, I think one team was hiding on the bush, and Divine Esports did not have any information. How do we go about this? Are we going very aggressive? If we overextend, it can be punished by one team. So it's really just a double-edged sword. If we go all in, we need to commit. But the problem is, Divine Esports was hindering quite a bit there. They don't want to go very all in that fight, but not really just going through. So they're just dancing. But here on top side, 2v1, Ton X with the knock-up from Kid, bringing down another kill for one team.
That is super clean coming from Shanyo. The trust on Kid. We talked about this before the draft even started. It's one of those things where Kid is the most consistent member coming from one team. If you enable him like what you're doing now with Shanyo's early Lee Sin, and they constantly create pressure against Ton X, then Divine Esports may have a big problem. Again, one team has shown weaknesses or struggles against teams that play fast, but if you adjust, if you're able to stabilize the game by applying pressure, then it shackles Divine Esports' way of getting ahead early. And we talked about the 10-minute timer for Divine last time when they went up against EVOS earlier today, but because Divine has drafted Hope One on this Kaisa and as well as Lin towards this Camille, at least there is a little bit of that backup when it comes to the late game.
Yeah, it's the comeback potential for Divine Esports. This is their winning condition, is to sustain themselves for that long. But we'll see, because one team right now is capitalizing on the early game. They're going all in. We talked about this a while ago, right? How Xianyo and Len, who will be the better jungler? Who will be that better space maker for their team? And as of now, it's Xianyo putting that early aggression as a Lee Sin level 3, level 5 power spike to put their team in a very good position. Now a 2k goal lead in the first 3 minutes, 30 seconds of the game.
Yeah, it's looking to be a good start. I mean, 2 kills earlier on, and as well as being able to get a gank on towards top side. So we'll have to see how one team is able to execute their heavy skirmish, because Baya and CU for sure are going to tag team to make sure that the hero's entrance and the survivability of Baya is right there. Because of the shields, because of the CC knock-up coming from CU's ult on top of the Moonfall. So that is the ideal setup that one team is looking for. And I think the biggest cherry on top, I suppose, is Kid's AoE stun on that Riven. So we'll have to see if one team will prioritize the Rift Herald looking at their movements on the map right now.
Yeah, it's falling really close for one team as a wombo combo composition, as a team fight composition rather, right? Having Baya with a Moonfall, Ninja 7, pretty much every single one of them has this pickup potential and also has this AoE setup for their team, and I think they need to capitalize that to win on those team fights in the mid game. And Divine Esports is sort of that scaling. They need to wait for late game. Ton X with the Darius is a snowball champion. They need to have that early gold, be able to try and increase his prowess in that team fights later on. But for now, it's one team going for the Cloud Dragon and Divine Esports going for the Rift Herald.
They know that they will have the numbers disadvantage if they try to fight Divine Esports, because Coyote has been split pushing at bottom. It's not like Baya can fly across the map. So I really like this coming from Divine. They're able to get that Rift Scuttler. No, Herald.
Oh, face check coming from Quay, and he will just get eviscerated. Another kill coming from one team. This is their third in this game with no trade as of yet for Divine.
Yeah, it looks like Divine is just going to be satisfied with First Blood Tower here, not even dropping the Rift Herald just yet. So they can, no. One team denies First Blood Tower, lose on that gold bonus, and decided to be patient here. We'll see this collapse.
Yeah, look at the taunt coming from CU, goes for the two-man taunt here, and Ninja 7 comes with a follow-up. That's the exhaust onto Taunt X, gonna get killed with a wind slash from Kid.
Beautifully done there, coming from one team. Even devaluing the Rift Herald. It was basically only one charge. The intention of Divine Esports for keeping the Rift Herald was not to waste it. Hopefully they're able to get another charge in to destroy the inner tower at top side, but one team, quick to their feet, quick to their decision making, and basically collapsed before having to deny that from happening.
Yeah, and I think it was like one team esports, 2 men on bot side. Let's go for the Rift Herald, but they did not know it was an early recall come from one team. As soon as they got the tower first blood, they went back to respawn top side. But look at here, it's gonna be one team getting another turret top lane, and Divine Esports wants to have this pressure in mid lane as Coyote went in for the Destiny to respond onto that, but one team consistently pressures in with those quick responses.
Yeah, this has been little bit more of that macro focused. Every single time Divine Esports goes to the opposite portion of the map, one team is just ready to respond towards the area where where one team can easily try and push the wave and regain control. So I really like this coming from the side of one team. Divine also utilizing the fact that they have this Twisted Fate Destiny again. We talked about this before. Coyote in this setup, in this dynamic of scaling, is there to punish one team for their early game plays, get the numbers advantage, and as well as enable the split push into the early phases of the game. As we saw earlier, Coyote had to face against Baya. Baya couldn't fly. Of course, Diana just having that dual potential up against Coyote whenever Coyote decides to pressure a certain lane.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned about Coyote, because I'm thinking about the same player, I'm thinking about the same champion, because when you're looking at the items, he has now secured the Rod of Ages and also Leechbane. And Leechbane, as we all know, is a huge power spike coming from Twisted Fate. So I think we might expect a lot of damage now coming up for Divine Esports. But look at Xianyo with Dragon's Rage, gonna be locked in. Hextech ultimate, a good response from Divine as they take the kill instead of Xianyo.
So much damage, it's still not over.
Yeah, one team trying to hold on. It's a Moonfall going for 3-man knockup. And Kid with the win slash secures Tonex.
That is just so much damage. You see CU never got to use his ult at all.
Ooh, gold card massive from Coyote, but he's very low. And Kid forces out the flash with that skill kit, almost surviving, but Hope One gets a kill.
And it all snowballed because of, again, Xianyo wanted to enter the fight, use CU to dive into the backline, possibly make a triple man taunt play before the dragon spawned. But it basically backfired because the rest of one team were pretty much far away. There was no way a follow-up collapse could have happened in that scenario. Divine Esports just basically punished that play. And now, no important ults available on the side of one team in time for this dragon. Maybe only the Moonfall, but I feel like the Hero's entrance is just so critical in this setup.
Definitely. It's a very, very good, just something in your back pocket for extra sustainability in this matchup, especially with a lot of burst damage potential. But look at one team. Chain of Corruption connects onto Tonex, no follow-up. So that will not be a kill. Tonex is just frontlining in that pretty much a little bit of a greed thing there for both teams, but no kills. They're just waiting for that right opportunity because Mountain Dragon is alive.
Yeah, they're waiting for CU's Hero's entrance before anything else, and one team can afford to do so because...
Oh, Kid jumps in. This is the opportunity that one team wants. Destiny will give information, but Moonfall from Baya gets 3, but Divine Esports, Hope One, gets a kill instead. Killer Instinct jumps straight into the backside, and now it's Kid trying to run away. He does, but Divine Esports gets away with 1 kill.
I just found it a little funny. I said they had the opportunity to wait it out a little bit because they had poke coming from Varus.
Now, Divine Esports going to secure the Mountain Dragon while one team is just hovering around in the backside, tries to contest, will not do so. And now it's Divine Esports going ahead with a free dragon in their back pocket.
Nicely done by Divine here. This sets the tone again. They're able to get the shields on that buff. Therefore, they're able to defend themselves a little bit, get that mitigation against Ninja 7's taunts, especially later on during the Baron dances, during the Ocean Drake. Let's take a look at that again. I talked about this before. It is fine to buy time till you have the Hero's entrance because Baya will need that immensely, needing that secondary CC to follow up for that Moonfall for him to survive a little bit longer. But again, key ults were not available. They wanted to engage onto Quay, and it felt like possibly it wasn't the right target.
Yeah, I think one team with that initial setup split up. And Divine Esports just got the huge edge in that fight, being able to capitalize onto a pitch wherein you have Kaisa, you have Twisted Fate, just having that solo single target, you're just gonna get eviscerated from that. So I think that is how Divine Esports played that out through and through. But for now, I am commending both teams because when you're looking at the gold, it's pretty much even. Only 500 gold lead for Divine Esports.
Yeah, it's very, very close. Divine is able to build up, basically equalize, stabilize the game. But the scary thing is,
1v1 from
fine.
Kid. This is what they don't want. Tianyo with a K Dragon Rage onto land. But Sonic Wave gonna get body blocked by the jungle creep.
No. Yeah, that's very unfortunate. I mean, they do not have... They could have had the numbers advantage because CU was on a Galileo, but take note, constantly Divine has been pressuring topside. So at the back of one team's head, we can't exactly prolong these fights or else we'll lose a tower. Moonfall.
Now Baya, Moonfall followed up with
Here's
Hero's
Entrance.
Entrance. They're not gonna pull through. They just zoned away the enemy team. But Divine Esports is waiting for the right moment. But no minion wave to pull through.
No minion wave, no important ults just yet. Len still keeping the Hextech ultimatum very safe and sound, possibly going to set up for later if ever things get a little bit too sticky. But yeah, again, one team always has to think about topside, always has to think about that. Therefore, they can't exactly afford prolonged fights too much. And I really like this call coming from Divine here. Tanex having to build waves on bottom side instead. So we'll see now Divine in the current lead. Remember, they have scaling, so one team is on a timer here.
Yeah, and that's what they want. They want to wait. But Divine Esports just going through. I think it was one team that was so close. If Len just pushed up a little bit into the riverbed, he could have been killed, but it was sort of a good response. You know what? It's you. He saw him. He pulls back. And I think this is what I love to see. It's just the reaction from Divine Esports and also one team on how they respond onto those fights. But here, it's Quay going for the face check, sees on Tianyo, and now he's gonna get stunned up. Glacial Fisher, two-man, Baya, Moonfall on the air. He does not get anyone, and now Coyote golden card onto Bayo, delays him, and Siu will get killed. That's gonna be one for Divine Esports, not anymore, but one team has lost their support.
It's a very dark map for one team. I bet Xianyo did not see that coming with a collapse coming from Divine Esports. Something to note as well. Earlier into the inventory, well, I thought that we might see a fight over here. Looks like that's going to be a no. Okay, for Zonia's Hourglass enchants on the side of one team. That is big respect to the finisher, to the guillotine coming from Tanex to deny that big burst of damage, and as well as that big gold card as well in the later fight. So there's just a lot of investment to make sure that those two things do not connect during the fights later on.
Yeah, definitely huge respects, because if you're looking at it right now, Coyote
Kick.
with rapid fire kind of huge range. But now, one team getting a flank onto Ton X will not get the kill. And now Divine Esports quick response into that action, and one team has to dissipate. And Divine Esports saves Ton X life.
He's gonna be okay for now. No flash though, but look at the dragon now being started.
Yeah, it's Divine Esports in the head of a pack here. Glacial Fisher with a 4-man knockup, and one team does not get that opportunity to even go through the dragon. Hexag ultimatum into the backside though, and now Stasis Anchet buys a little bit more time for Divine Esports to cool up. And now Baya jumps in backside, gets killed, and Divine Esports takes a buy one, take one. But the fight's not going to be over. Coyote is headlining this fight. But just cancel out the recall. One team will delay it, and now Divine starts up the Baron.
Yeah, this is just no Baya. That means no threat of diving into the Baron pit, land a crazy moonfall into low health targets. But this is Xianyu. On a Lee Sin, there's still a potential steal.
Yeah, look at Coyote. Stuns up onto Xianyu. Forced to use the Stasis Enchant. Cannot even get the steal down because that Stasis lasts for 2 seconds. And now Coyote, though, gonna get erased with Ninja 7 with a piercing arrow.
And Divine, having that Baron buff now, they will be able to utilize the siege. Possibly, maybe even with the 1-3-1 setup. With possibly Len and Tanex for sure pressuring the side lanes. And for one team, they're wave clear wise, it looks good. They've got Ninja 7 on this Varus. They also have Baya on this Diana. But the dive potential coming from Divine just cause of Tanex and Len with the Hextech ultimatum and the possible follow-up with the Killer Instinct and everything else coming from Divine it's just really scary. And the biggest question is, how will one team hold out? Because we're at that point, 16 minutes into the game. This is where Divine will reign.
Yeah, you have Kaisa already built up some more items. Coyote, as we stated a while ago, Rod of Ages, Rapid Fire Cannon, and also Lich Bane. So his damage is gonna hurt. And one team has to respect this. We have to know what we do, because when we misstep, it's gonna be single targeted CC chain for Divine Esports bringing us down.
It's gonna be absolutely scary. Ninja 7, you mentioned, has that ninja no, has the chain of corruptions. If ever Divine Esports decides to be aggressive, one team has that big punish, a lot of punishing tools for sure. That's why Divine is still very, very careful.
Yeah, and look at one team. They're holding on. Chain of Corruption to
Whoa!
follow up to start up this fight. Guillotine gets the reset though and kills off Scan. Yo, one team fighting 4v5. Divine Esports spearheading this fight, and they almost get the kill. Killer Instinct to jump in to try and finish up. But Ninja 7 gets killed. Moonfall to delay it. Hero's Entrance, 2-man knock-up. But that will just be a delay. Kid and Sue, the only one left to live, to defend. But Kid will be the one standing, and Divine Esports is just finishing this up. But no minion waves. Can this happen? Can this be the finishing fight? And Divine Esports takes game 1.
One team had a good start towards the fight.
Have this threat that is going to force a little bit of a gamble within one team's kind of comms and mental, and it's like, oh, do we try to force a 5-on-4 where we have a numbers advantage, or do we answer Len on the Camille split push? And a lot of the times they just they didn't opt for either or. They just let Len start taking turrets for free, and then all the gold that they were behind, Divine are able to catch themselves back up. And now looking into the second draft, Divine, they know that how well the Camille worked out for themselves and Len, so there's no reason to change things up now.
Yeah, I was a little bit excited when, I believe Kid brought out the Riven, because we did see him, perform really, really well on that champion. But, right now, I feel like one team, if they are stronger together, if they do work well with those team fights, I feel like, they really have to take the fight to Divine Esports, because they drag on the game any longer. Divine Esports, they're gonna get that momentum, they're gonna get that snowball. One team needs to meet them where they're at right now, and not sort of like back off, because that's what I'm feeling on the side of one team.
Okay,
Yay.
Yasuo lock in, Divine Esports out here to play. I mean, this is the same thing that we see from Divine time and time again, right? The mid laner Coyote has such a big champion pool that Divine are just willing to play for anything. You got a Fist? We'll play for it. Zed? Why not? Yasuo? Okay, no problem by me. The issue that I do have for Divine is, well, are they super confident with this? Have they actually put into practice to make the Yasuo composition work out? If they have, then by all means. Now, one team, they're gonna go back with the same composition they had last game. And I have to say, I mean, Cienyo on this Lee Sin, he had some shaky moments in that last game, right? You saw him jump in, get a kick off in the back, and then find like a nice target. Not the best, it's a nice target, but he's caught between like 4 people. And then he dies, and then one team is out there fighting a 5v4. Granted, yeah, the guy that you kick might be like half health, but it's still 5v4 nonetheless, and that's where we're starting to see one team falter.
So Divine not opting in, or not falling into the Xayah Rakan trap. Normally for the past past series, they kept trying to pair Hope onto Xayah whenever Quay had the Rakan, but they recognized that, you know what, the Xayah, it wasn't necessarily working out too well because it didn't have the best way of following up on damage. It's great at self-heal, but Hope wants to be a part of the party. He doesn't want to be the one poor guy that gets left at the house when everyone else moves on to the next bar, when everyone is going bar hopping, because then that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel nice to be left out. So Hope on the Kaisa can always use the Killer Instinct to follow up on everyone else's engage, and I was kind of concerned that Divine, after drafting Camille Darius into Yasuo, they didn't have any ways to facilitate Yasuo's last breath apart from him just getting and generating his own knockups, because you can do that, but it's not usually the best, because then Yasuo has to put himself into very dangerous situations in order to self-generate that knockup, and usually you want Yasuo coming in off of the engage so that he has a full HP bar and can maximize his damage output in those fights.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see if Divine Esports, I feel like they could be prepping for something in the future over here. Like, practicing and bringing that out, possibly, training for maybe SPTC in the future. But before that, we are gonna step into the present with Game 2 of Divine Esports versus One Team. Casters, over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Mika. This is it. Divine Esports is one win away to sending One Team home, the first runner-up from Summer Super Cup, a series, a game where all stakes are on the line for One Team.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy looking at Divine Esports' journey towards the SEA Championships. Imagine, summer season, they didn't even qualify for the Summer Super Cup. They were at 6th place. And now, during the fall season, they've managed to get that 2nd seed in, even qualifying for the group stages of the SEA Champs, coming from the lower bracket during the play-ins. And I think that's absolutely crazy. And look at them here now. Even though they were sent down to the lower bracket in day 1 of the playoffs, they're looking really solid. They were able to put up a good fight against EVOS, especially during the early game at the first 3 games, I suppose. And One Team right now has been struggling, utilizing this Lee Sin as Shanyo takes another chance at this pick.
Yeah, the early game aggression we could expect coming in from One Team. From this Lee Sin, level 3 power spike is where it's at. If One Team can utilize this jungler rotations, this jungler padding, I think this is an absolute menace of a champion to play against.
And we could possibly see a copy-paste of Shanyo moving towards topside to create pressure to enable Kid here on this Riven. We've seen it before. We've seen him linger around, most likely trying to set up a dive. Riven, Lee Sin can be deadly, especially level 3. And if only Kid is able to set that up, try to harass Tanex a little bit on this Darius. Once you have the full combos all off cooldown, that's the time you reinitiate.
Yeah, and look at Xianyo. This is what we're saying. The early aggression come from One Team is something we could expect. And now Tanex is fighting 1v3 as Baya comes up. But Tanex, you know what? Chill for a while. This is the early game. Go back. Go back.
Yeah, Divine basically has seen this coming. The top in jungle practically hasn't changed from game number 1. And the fact that Divine is on a Kai'Sa means that, okay, we're gonna let Hope 1 farm, possibly be involved in the fights for later rotations, such as the early Rift Herald takes. And for Divine, they're happy about this one. One Team, you know, they've decided just, hey, we're just gonna trade buffs for now and see where this takes us. But I think the biggest difference is that One Team doesn't have the Galio anymore. Nothing to make sure that Baya is alive. So I think that is going to be a little bit worrying. So One Team should be a little bit hesitant on where they will decide to pour in the Moonfalls.
Yeah, they change it onto a Gragas. I think this is a soft counter that they want up against Len if Explosive Cast is there. I think they want to secure onto just the safety of Ninja 7 or potentially even Baya as well later on if ever it happens. For Divine Esports, as we all know, Len is probably one of the junglers that is really good at carrying the team, is really good at pressuring for his team. So I think that is something that One Team is respecting in the draft composition. You know what? We need to have something to target onto Len to try and make us safe.
Yeah, he's able to bridge the gap. I mean, looking at the earlier iterations of Divine Esports in this tournament, it was definitely more on playing early to mid game compositions and basically snowballing. Len, whether or not he synergizes pick-wise with Coyote or not, he's still able to carry the game and transition towards the mid game. But this is a different story now from Divine. This is them playing the scaling. Coyote is going to be absolutely insane every single time a knock-up is going to happen. And most of them, you know, Coyote can self-set up, but at the same time, they've got Quay here on the Rakan with the Grand Entrance. And Len, on the other hand as well, will be able to hold down targets with the Hextech Ultimatum. And I feel like it has been the soft answer against poke long-range champions such as the Varus. I think there are only 2 options, Jarvan 4, or maybe a Camille, which has now been open so far in their first 2 games.
Yeah, we see how Quay play Rakan. Even from their prior series, they did not win that series in the upper bracket, but play style from Quay, absolutely phenomenal. He sets up for his team onto those knock-up. Absolute insane. So we can expect maybe something the same. If they can replicate that type of playstyle coming from Quay, that's a good setup coming from Coyote to go for the last breath and follow up with those setups.
Possibility as well. Oh,
But one team actually locking down onto Len, kills him. First blood for one team. But look at Quay, quickness for Baya. But Baya, Moonfall, gets a knock up with
Coyote?
that. But Coyote is gonna get killed. The
Tonic.
Hasage almost saves him, but he doesn't. And Quay just jumps in to try to save another, but he just gets eviscerated in one team, gets 3 kills, and also the objective taken for this team.
Divine Esports' team fight on paper will look decent. You've got the setup for Coyote as well with the knockoff, but they came in one by one. As we take a look at the replay, Len banking on the 50-50 smite, but again, take note, one team's composition are just full of stuns, full of hold, full of lockdowns, and it's just going to be so difficult if you don't have the team with you. And this is basically, you know, one team, or Divine rather, just wanting to get out of the fight. Again, this composition doesn't have disengage, so once they're in, either they're forced to full commit, even though they're already on the losing end.
Yeah, that is definitely something we need to see, that we need to expect, because currently, as we keep on saying, prior to even in the series, that one team, when they get their lead, when they can get that, they could pivot their way top, in mid, in late game. They could pivot their way into success there coming from that. And I think One Team Esports is trying to replicate that type of strategy in this game. Get the early lead, we can punish. Now Coyote is fighting 2v1. But that's going to get blocked. Sonic Wave, Wind Wall, easy counter.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty sweet deal. One Kid, though, has been busy split pushing.
Yeah,
Let's see if there's a
Sianyo,
steal. Nope.
he just attempted. He just
There was
attempted.
an
One
attempt.
team is just hovering around the backside. Divine Esports going for the dragon, gets it. And when it's done, one team just goes back. We cannot.
Yeah, I feel like that is just the trade of First Blood Tower versus the Air Drake, which I think is very important for Divine to deny away from one team, because this is a big... this could end up potentially be a roaming death squad. The fact that Kid is already ahead, 3,000 gold lead almost, by the way, versus Tanex is gonna be is a huge problem for Divine to deal with, because while Xianyo and Kid managed to pick the same picks earlier in game number 1, they never really got Kid in the lead. We'll see here if they can punish.
Look at the level difference though. Level 7 for support. Ton X8. Who's gonna get this down? But Hexic ultimate and will lock him. 3v1 will kill down Kid.
Really nicely done by Divine Esports. They know that a 2v2... Whoa, hold that thought though.
One. Very in a
Good
bad
ball.
position. One team jumps in. 4-man gets a kill again. In bot side, this is the trade that they want from top side 1-for-1.
Coyote's alone.
Yeah, he is fighting this alone. He is the lone man standing. Can he
Quay?
do it? Can he survive? But Windwall just to secure his life, and Quay is there to respond. Divine Esports, Coyote is safe to go back.
One team isn't able to finish off the kill. Quay is able to go back in time, and the fact that one team also unleashed the Rift Herald in the middle, Divine basically neutralized that threat and is able to even get chip tower damage in the mid lane. So I feel like this is a really good deal for Divine, but at the same time, they're still lacking in gold. 4k gold deficit now. One team having a better start compared to game number 1.
Yeah, and this has many factors, right? Pretty much Divine Esports in the first 3 minutes into the matchup, Tanex and topside did not get 3-4 waves because of the constant pressure from one team. And on top of all that, they have the 3-kill lead. So even if, you know, Divine Esports got the Cloud Dragon, even if they had that opportunity to get maybe the Rift Herald, maybe not, this is where it's at. One team is leading the early game pack here.
This could be another dive again.
Yeah, one team is setting up. They want to
Okay.
engage. Explosive cast. Zone's away the enemy team. They just secured the turret. They're going to go back.
They have to go back mid lane though, because Tanex is so close to destroying that tower down. We'll see. He does have the stone plate. Not going to be the proto belt enchant. Look at this. This is really nice rotations coming from Divine. One
Oh,
team.
Almost. One team.
Not bad.
2v3. But look at that. The last breath actually gets it onto Xianyo. Forces out the stasis enchant. But
Collapse.
Xiu gonna get killed with a guillotine.
Whoa.
Followed up with another.
Double
as
kill.
Xianyo will die. And now Kid is fighting this alone alongside with 2 more members as they get in for the quick response for a 2v2.
Really nicely done by Tanex, is able to get 2 resets there, but the collapse again, the numbers disadvantage, and the fact that Kid arrived in the scene. Remember, he's in the lead, and it's absolutely scary if he becomes involved in these fights, especially when Divine is so clumped together. That is exactly not what you want. And I feel like the biggest threat as well, item-wise, because Divine, there's a lot of AD physical damage going on. One team can easily sort of itemize around this composition.
And pretty much one team is not even giving space to Divine Esports. Yes, you get this initial advantage of getting turrets, getting kills, but we get that trade as soon as it happens. And this is what one team wants. They want to win it. They want to have that lead. Because when you're looking at Divine Esports, Hope 1 and Coyote is killing in the late game. So if they do this, this is constant punish. This is so devastating for Divine Esports to try and make it back.
And they have to be careful not to give too much to one team every single time they want to contest these objectives while waiting for Coyote and Hope 1 to scale. It is a very tricky line to cross. And now Divine, at least Tanex was able to get 2 kills earlier, meaning he's able to catch up a little bit towards Kid. He's still 1 level deficit versus Kid over here, but Ocean Drake already being started.
Yeah, Divine Esports is just waiting around the corner, waiting for that opportunity. Down to 2K for the Ocean Dragon. Now Divine Esports jumps in onto the Dragon's pit. And Divine Esports gets the steal on the Ocean Dragon. And one team does not have an answer. But Kid wants it. He wants to get that trade on a kill. But look at the Hexing Ultimatum coming from Bai into the backside with a Moonfall to follow up. Last Crit saves him. Actually gets an extra shield. But one team still gets the kill on Coyote.
Reset?
And Tanex is making miracle. Gets 2 resets. Gets double kill. And now one team has lost another. Ninja 7 will fall, and Divine Esports gets the triple.
I find it insane that Hope 1, the carry, was the sacrificial lamb to keep Ninja 7, CU, everybody else from one team in the backline to be busy, therefore having the fight into 2 while Tanex is able to do Darius things, get resets, and this is exactly what we were talking about. Let's take a look at that replay again. Look at this. The zoning that Quay and as well as as Tanex is doing is just really, really great. They're able to steal the dragon. Look at this from Hope 1. The killer instinct into the backline basically halves the fight into 2, keeping Shanyo and Kid busy. By the way, Kid, the most fed member of the team, not involved in the important part of the fight. Therefore, Tanex had space to do Darius things and basically get resets and basically win the fight. This is the snowball, the domino effect that we saw. Tanex getting 2 kills was so critical for that dragon fight.
Yeah, and when Kid came up into that fight, he just gets dunked by Tanex and gets killed. So he can't even provide value in that most important fight in that bot side of that matchup. And Divine Esports is now slowly but surely building up into that differences onto one team. Only 2K gold as of now. A while ago, it was 3K, 4K up against one team.
Yeah, the difference now because of both top laners being able to get kills now, feeding in towards Tanex here. Kick.
Sianyo with mechanical play kicks on Tanex. Tanex still gonna live a bit longer, but he gets laid down by Kid. And now Baya, backside, mechanics, pushes in, dashes in, but quickness and grand entrance charms him up. Baya forces out the stasis engine. Sianyo once again, and backside gets a kick, but will not pull through. One team will just get the kill on Tanex with no trade for Divine.
That is the combo that we're looking for coming from Shanyo with the Dragon's Rage into the Chain of Corruptions. I think that's really, really sweet to be able to get a pick. But yes, their target is Tanex, being able to cash in here and there for shutdown gold. I feel like one team will eventually have this 4 Zonia's enchant set up just to deny and save that stasis whenever Tanex is going to dunk every single time. It's very, very important. That for Ninja 7 isn't exactly a priority because he'll always make sure that he's not going to be in range of Tanex.
Yeah, and that's important because if Ninja 7 just comes up front line, he's just going to get beaten down by Divine Esports pretty much, right? So I think it's important that he stays backside and he understands that. He knows that is his important role, to deal damage in the backside, while Divine Esports is sort of the front line. It's go for the hyper engage. As now we're seeing it happen. We're seeing it come into fruition. We're seeing that Baron domination here for both teams.
And it's been so critical. That is exactly why Xianyo would constantly visit topside to make sure Kid is able to be unlocked on whatever pick he desires in the game. The same thing, Tanex, whether or not Len is involved as well, he's able to be that mountain, that solid, stable Baron laner for Divine Esports time and time again. And now, this is such a critical point in the game. Despite one team being in the lead gold-wise, Dragons, Divine Esports has it all. And Len possibly stealing another objective is just around the corner.
Yeah, this is what it's known for. Len just constantly gets a steal, but one team secures
Denied.
the Master Dragon.
Oh,
But for the
triple
4-man knockout, Lost Breath will get the 3, and now it's Divine Esports taking a lead, but one team actually secures the backside, gets a kill onto it, and now Ninja 7 and Siu will fall, and Divine Esports is slowly pushing back the lead of one team into a minimum, only down into 1k gold.
Yeah, Ninja 7 is gone, Siu is gone, they have no disengage, they have no strong tanky frontline engage available. It's gonna be a 5v3 situation in the Baron.
Look at Kid though, fighting 1v1 up against Tanex, but here comes the crew. It's
Collapse.
Via jumping up, but he will be saved jumping into Dragon's Pit. Now Kid will be the only one left, but too mobile, too quick. Tanex uses the flash, almost getting the hit. What?
Bleeding the shield.
No. Oh my.
Look at Vaya. Look at this position. Is he going in?
TPs
Teleport?
are also coming up. 2 TPs at the very least. And now one team jumping
Vaya.
into the Baron. It is left open for
Xianyo!
Xianyo
He's hitting the
to
Baron!
take. And they get the steal. Now it's Kid going for the double kill. And Divine Esports is left for Hope 1 and Quay to defend as one team just eviscerate that team fight.
That is a crazy turn of events. One team, Xianyo, he had eyes on the Baron. Look at the death timers. Look at the teleports. 30 seconds without Coyote, Len, and Tanex. This is going to be really, really tricky for Divine.
And they're pushing mid lane, they're pushing it, and Divine Esports had to defend if they want to leave the opening for them to come back in the later situation. But one team is
Teleport.
pushing it harder. TPs are not coming up.
Knockout.
Xianyo is here into the fray, but
Hopefully.
Rakan, grand entrance with a quickness,
Nexus.
delays it. But Divine Esports will not be able to hold on, and one team takes game 2 as they take it to the 3rd game.
We're going to game 3, baby. What was that? We saw Divine.
I like the mid game together because the fact is the Darius and the Camille are able to really win a lot of these team fights where the Kai'Sa was not that present.
And as we head into Champ Select right now for Game 3, it's tough to believe that we'll be saying goodbye to one of these teams at the end of this game. It could be one team, it could be Divine Esports. Right now, I'm pretty 50-50, especially with that last match. I think it's gonna be really painful indeed if we say goodbye to Divine Esports because they've had such a great run. They were pegged as, they were our favorites coming in here. I think some of us have even predicted that they would win the championship, which is pretty amazing. And we have one team over here who have that pedigree. These are two teams that are really, really good in the Southeast Asia region. I cannot believe that it's going to come down to this one game.
Well, Divine, after losing that game, get the choice to take red side. So despite one team having a priority first pick, Divine will be able to answer with 2 strong picks of their own as a response. And, okay, so this is a little risky though, picking the Olaf this early without getting a chance to secure and lock away the Jarvan, because a powerful combo with Ziggs is the Jarvan, because sometimes you want to throw down the Mega Inferno Bomb, but they can dash away or they can escape and just run away from the impending ultimate. You get a Cataclysm though, and you lock everyone down. If they don't have Flash, then that's incredibly easy for you to just line up and get a majority of your burst damage down, especially when you have something, especially when you're getting for the center of the ultimate. But they haven't gone for the Jarvan yet, and now Divine, I guess there's no real threat, or they don't have a fear of going up against the Jarvan because they're just locking the Galio and the Corki instead.
Yeah, I guess with the Jarvan pickup, they feel like it might be too
there
passive,
it
but
is.
one team are just willing to go for it either way, right? Just play in the lane, whatever you want to do. It just looks like a good pick against what Divine Esports have. You lock in the Olaf, you lock in the Darius. It's such a good pickup for this team. And Divine Esports, I mean, they're just drafting for counter engage, just looking to dive down against one team, double down on any aggression that they have. But it's, wow, what a composition.
One team, they want to stick around. They want to claim first place after becoming so close during the Summer Super Cup. And for Divine, of course, it's a crazy journey for them so far. Imagine the the C Championships is basically their debut into this regional stage, this big stage. And now they're facing, and very close, one game away from moving on to the next round, and they've been doing phenomenally well, even having to 2-0 EVOS Esports during the group stages. I'm very interested to see how this is going to pan out, especially with this composition. Rafa even stated himself, Len, will he constantly use the Ragnarok as an escape tool, or can he use this aggressively, knowing the fact that Kid is on a Jarvan 4?
Yeah, and he has to use the flash if ever he wants to go away. But if he uses the flash, so much value out of that lost for Divine Esports, or lost for Len specifically, if he just used that to escape, because he does not have any more escape route or extra engage onto one team onto those team fights. So I'm glad that you mentioned about Len, because it is also a player, it is also a champion that I'm looking at for Divine Esports and how he can maneuver himself up against one team esports. But for now, what I'm seeing is a switch in lanes here for Divine, going for Arakan top alongside with Darius, because of how one team is playing this through with Ninja 7 and Stu also top lane. Now, how could this work out? Because I'm seeing Rakan to be expected to be more impatient, while Kaisa and Lulu be more aggressive.
Yeah, the lane swap is very necessary here just because Ninja 7 on a Kaisa. Hold that thought though, as we might potentially see a dive that one Kid sees coming, therefore is not going to be in any risk. But again, Kaisa matchups are very awkward, right? There's a lot of AD carries paired with aggressive supports that can just basically dive into you, that forces the Kaisa lane swaps constantly. They don't want to deal with a Rakan Corki lane as well, so this is the call. But I think the most interesting thing about the dynamic now that one team has is that Kid is not on a carry. He's on a tank. He's gonna be the one who shackles Lin, not through sheer force, but as a tank. We're not gonna be seeing him on the usual carry duelist. So I think this is very effective in this certain matchup where one team shifts focus on Ninja 7 now to carry late game, and Baya as well. The biggest question is, will Divine give them time? Because the mid game coming from Divine is absolutely scary.
And it's spicy, right? Because Taunt X is Snowball, Len is great in the mid game. You also have Coyote to follow up from how Len can engage. So I love that you mentioned about the mid game looking very, very intense for Divine Esports specifically, especially how Hope 1 can also build into either path onto Crit or onto Trinity Force, depending on what he wants. But looking at this one, I think he rather go for an Essence River with a Crit build for Corki, so we could expect a lot from that. But here in bot lane, we're seeing another as Kuei goes back down.
And they're gonna be okay as the lane swap, just as you mentioned, basically stabilizes. Possibly in time for the Dragon. It is going to be an Air Drake, which is usually, we get to see teams prioritize Rift Herald a little bit more, especially you don't have assassin junglers on your end that wants to roam around the map. I suppose Shanyo would so desire to get that and see if he can get the lead and then maybe initiate possible jungle invades to get the lead in this early game. So now we get to see resets coming from the AD carries. We'll see, as Divine would be happy to unlock topside to get and funnel gold for Tonix and basically re-enable him, produce the same Tonix from game number 2.
Because if they allow that, we all know that Taunt X is an absolute menace of a player, is an absolute menace of a champion. He's probably one of the best team fighters in the world, if not in the Southeast Asia alone. So we'll see how he can play this out for Divine Esports. But for now, we have a parallel shift. One team starting onto the Cloud Dragon, while Divine starts with the Rift Herald.
We'll see if they're able to drop down to get First Blood Tower here.
Yeah, because one team esports is aggressive in bot lane. But Xianyo, Siu doesn't have any more creeps, doesn't have any more minions to follow up in getting those. And while Divine topside is uncontested, getting the tower first blood for Divine.
It's so difficult because Coyote has Winds of War. They've got Phosphorus Bombs coming from Hope 1 and as well as the Rockets. So wave clear is very rich. Even if Baya is present, he has to walk manually to the lane where one team wants to focus on. And the fact that Divine Esports has First Blood Tower plus keeping the Rift Herald to pressure mid lane.
Yeah, and I think this will be one team
Xianyo.
going into mid lane. And now Xianyo,
Cataclysm.
look at Jarvan 4, Cataclysm locks down onto Coyote, but Hero's Entrance used up to save his life. And now Rift Herald just punching on the turret. They want to get this. Rift Herald, go! But Divine Esports will not be able to pull it up, and only one turret plate secured by Divine mid lane. Now Tonex is going to get Polymorph in that fight. And Tonex flash upper hand gets on two. Baya uses the satchel charge to go back away, and Coyote slowly walking in that fight, zones away the enemy team. That is over. One team gets out of that fight.
Could have been dangerous for Divine Esports. Tonex really wanted to initiate that. He even consumed a flash here. Again, there's no proto belt into apprehend. Aiming for more of that tankiness just because one team has a lot of damage on the board and as well as single target. Once the Icadian Rain as well, just having to funnel through and shred you, which is very understandable because again, having that survivability, meaning you get to be more involved in the fights.
Now Tonex 3v1, he is gonna get slain. Look at that, but Tonex still surviving. Honey Fruit is a clutch, but a kick down from Lee Sin. Xianyo with a Dragon Rage, and Ninja 7 gets the kill.
And now their focus has been Tonex throughout this whole game. It's very, very scary because again, they were hoping, Divine was hoping that they could unlock Tonex again from game number 2, and one team is just preventing that. And so far, now pressure will solely heavily rely towards Len on this Olaf to get ahead. No kills so far in this game. He is currently having a hard time because Kid has been focusing the Cataclysm constantly.
Yeah, and speaking of, Cataclysm into the mid lane, coming in to lock down onto Len. Len uses up the Ragnarok, still gonna be alive. And one team does not get the kill, but just zones him away. Look at Tonex here, Polymorph, and now he's gonna get killed once again by Xianyo. It's Coyote gonna get slain, and one team just doing a lot of work here.
Coyote! I wasn't quite sure on his location over there. He was very far from the team, possibly wanting to get deep vision for Divine Esports for a possible pick, perhaps, for forcing skirmishes in the one-team jungle. So far, though, 2K gold lead, and look at this, this is what we're talking about, the constant pressure. Xianyo, Air Drake, very important for them because they get that movement speed just to keep pressuring the deeper ends of Divine Esports' jungle.
Yeah, and Divine Esports pushing them away, but this is the problem, right? Xianyo is too mobile of a champion, can jump through walls, can jump out, can Sonic Wave, make these plays, and one team keeps on doing that. And Xianyo is just amazing on this champion. He plays very mechanically up against Divine Esports. If they cannot handle that pressure, it's going to be very much more difficult for them, especially with some soft counters being picked up by one team. Jarvan 4 locks down onto Len. And I think Divine Esports could pivot themselves into another way here up against one team, because for now, it's already one team leading the pack with 1k gold lead.
Yeah, it's really hard because Tonex's plan didn't work out. The Len show didn't work out. So who are you going to be banking on? Hope 1?
Yeah, forces out the flash because he cannot go away, and Cataclysm is just so massive for a value up against Len. And now Divine Esports is just around the corner trying to contest. One team is going to let this through though, and Divine Esports starting onto the Ocean Dragon. One team is there. Divine waiting for that opportunity.
Tonex.
Half HP coming from the Ocean Dragon. Tonex gonna get kicked by Xianyo with a Dragon Rage. And it's now Divine Esports.
What?
One team has lost it, and Divine has stolen the Ocean Dragon for themselves, and they are fighting it. Who will get this up? Wild Goat will be forced onto Ninja 7. Kid into the front lines, dealing low damage because he built on tank build. And now one team just goes back. Divine just steals it, goes back as well.
And Divine Esports is happy about that one, but at the same time, they're up against one team who is gonna scale. Ninja 7, very deadly on the Kaisa. Bias bombs are gonna hurt, therefore Divine cannot afford to linger around objectives as much as they can. Tanex leading the charge. Again, we've seen this before. Len keeping the Ragnarok, just consuming a flash to escape the Cataclysm from earlier, saving the Ragnarok just for these situations. And Ninja 7 at this point of game, well, not at this point of the game, he'll slowly become such a huge threat. And Divine didn't have anything to work with anymore, so they decided to back away.
Ooh, Blast Cone, what a
The
clutch,
kick.
but a K coming from
What?
Sianyo puts him back in
Coyote.
cage, and Coyote is very low. He uses up the punch to go back, and now they're safe.
They're safe for now. And we talked about this before. It's such a huge problem that Tynex wasn't able to get ahead in the early phases of the game, but that can still be remedied with poke coming from Hope 1. Imagine this scenario. Baron area, Hope 1, lots of pokes landing onto one team. Oh, I see someone who's low. Tynex enters the scene, then finishes targets off rather, with the guillotine. So I can't imagine that scenario because again, Divine, we mentioned, the analyst desk has mentioned it basically, that where is the damage gonna come from? Hope 1 on Corky. Hold the thought though.
Ooh, Sianyo forces the flash, also Ninja 7 to follow up, so 2 flashes away with only 1 grand entrance from Quay.
Very, very tricky there. Len doesn't have Ragnarok available. He's fine.
Yeah, they're not following up. They're not following up. But
Pretend.
Tanex almost gonna get pinned down, but still gonna live, clears out the wave, one team forced to back away.
It's very critical to set up for the next dragon. Infernal Drake up for grabs. We do love to deny that away from one team because they are already gonna hurt. They already hurt now. Imagine with the Infernal Drake as well, especially as the game progresses. And again, I believe we touched upon this earlier towards the analyst desk. I mean, of course, caster AD carries, Corky versus Ninja 7 with consistent damage. Auto attack based carries like a Kaisa, of course, late game would benefit because as a caster AD carry, your shots have to land. An auto attack, even if your cooldowns are off, you can still deal massive damage with the passive stacks as well that a Kaisa can provide. We'll see though.
Ooh.
This Cataclysm has been burned already.
Wow. And Quay does not even have to use the flash, so he just goes back from that battle dance. Massive play from Quay.
At this point of the game though, 12 minutes, I feel like the Cataclysm will be in a very low cooldown, relatively low cooldown there for Divine. Can use that really teeny tiny window to see if they can take advantage of that. Let Len reign free as this Olaf.
Yeah, if
Baron.
he could. Baron Nashor starting up by Divine Esports, and one team is there. Zones away from Coyote with the taunt, but Divine Esports is going back. Too low
Ooh,
for
Valkyrie.
Tanex. Exhaust to win. Hero's entrance. 3-man
Knock
knock-up,
up.
4-man knock-up, and now it's Wild Goat forced for Ninja 7. Coyote pulled back though, and now it's Len with the Ragnarok zones away.
What?
And now he's just gonna get eviscerated. Coyote jumps back in, he falls down. Sianyo is now there. Sonic Wave will not connect though.
Look at the bombs. Baya, even though Divine Esports has been winning all of these fights on paper, their HP bars are just too risky to even try to get these objectives to fight again because Baya is there. The threat, without Ragnarok, you will not have access into the backline. You cannot reach Baya at all. So it's very critical to save that Ragnarok either on stealing objectives or reaching Baya. So at that point, Divine Esports cannot reinitiate that fight.
And even then, Baya just got information up against Divine Esports and greatly punished by one team. But for now, when we're looking at a goal, when we're looking at a kill standings, this amazes me. There is only single digit for both teams and 1k goal lead for Divine Esports. So both teams are holding on very, very patiently and very, very risk-free. But this, I think, can pivot down very badly for any of both teams because the Baron Nashor will be that constant pressure, will be that massive value of objective.
It just shows how critical this game is. Again, one will go home, one will still get to continue their journey in the SEA Championships. And of course, one team, as the first runner-ups back in the summer season, would still love to get that crown. Divine, it's their first time here in this big stage with all the best teams from Southeast Asia. And of course, they want to make their first time count, and they've been looking really solid. And look at them now, fighting toe-to-toe with almost equal in gold and as low of a kill count of a game.
They're ascension to greatness, man. For Divine Esports, from the play-ins to the group stage and now to the playoffs, is an absolute amazing feat here for Divine Esports. But now the question is, can they follow this up? Can they bring this into a win, fall through into the lower bracket quarterfinals up against some more teams here in the SEA Championship 2021? But this is a very difficult question to ask because for now, it is anyone's game. It could pivot downscale for any one of these teams. As once again, we keep on stating the Baron Nashor will be the source of team fight, will be the starting signal for any of these teams to initiate, to engage for that opportunity.
And it's so critical too. Hope 1 has a lot of crit on the board already. You've got Solari Charge Blade, Essence Reaver, and Infinity Edge. One team cannot fight in choke points, or else all the rockets will funnel through, and they're just gonna get shredded. That is not gonna be a fun time. So they have to pick their fights in terms of the territory, or the terrain rather, to make sure that does not happen. So open spaces will be the key.
Yeah, and do take note, Hope 1, with the Gatling gun, decreases down the armor efficacy here for one team. So if he just constantly just produces that amount of damage with this crit item build, it's gonna be so massive. If you're looking at it, he built into 75% crit rate and he bought 2 more knuckles, so that's pretty much 95% crit rate for now for Hope 1.
That's why one team is so careful. There is an attempt. Look at Kid.
Oh, Kid locks down Cataclysm, but apprehends onto Xianyo, and also Kid pulls them back out of the cage. Xianyo goes for the Stasis Enchant, and Len goes for the 100 Foot, still survives, and now one team is very low on HP. 2 of their members is 1/3.
What?
Uses up the flash with a flag and drag. What?
Oops, apprehend.
Connex apprehends, gets one. That's a follow-up from Coyote, but a clear instinct into the backside, gets a kill. And now it's Ninja 7 going to die from the hands of Hope 1. This will be the 1-for-1. Divine Esports will hold on. One team will do the same, but Baron Nashor is that pivot once again. This is their starting, and we saw it happen.
Now they don't want history to repeat itself. One team, we saw them pinging Baron. Divine not falling for the same events again. They decided, okay, let's just fight for Elder. This is a less riskier choice. All ults are available except for the quickness coming from Quay, which is going to be very important. I believe one team has everything soon. 17 seconds of the clock though without Ninja 7. He has to buy TP boots to join this fight immediately.
And Divine Esports is starting onto the Mountain Elder Dragon. If one team comes down, this is very massive for them. And Tonix tries to zone them away, buys a bit more time for Coyote to follow up. Let's look at this. He is not buying the TPs, so he has to walk. He has to go traditional
there
route.
It is.
But TP's coming from Ninja 7. So this will be a 5v4. Hero's entrance though goes in quickly, zones away the enemy team, knock up onto one. Divine Esports pulling up onto the Mountain Elder Dragon, 2k HP down, quickness, and
Jungler down
answer from Quay, actually massive, but gets a kill onto Xianyo, and Divine gets him out in Elder Dragon. Look at Ninja 7 to the backside, Killer Instinct gets 2, and now this will be the 4v2. Coyote still gonna be alive, Tonix as well, but they will get killed down. That will be Siu taking the last hit of this, and Tonix is just running away. He has to defend.
Because Divine has managed to get that Elder on their hands. They've basically won on paper at least, and both teams have suffered chip damage from the minion waves at their respective lanes. Let's take a look at this again. Ninja 7 buying teleport boots. That really good knockup into the Hera's entrance just for that additional shield, and I really like this coming from Divine. They basically rooted out Xianyo right away to make sure that no 50-50 Baron steals are going to be there. Therefore, Len is able to smite comfortably, but the killer instinct from Ninja 7. This is the point of the game where it's so scary because Ninja 7, every time he's got a killer instinct, everybody's just going to get shredded down, and that is the threat of what we call the late game, which is the Kaisa.
Kaisa, the queen of late games. Can we put the title on this champion? Yeah.
I think that's the unofficial official title.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's fair. There's a lot more champions that also skilled late game, but for now, it's Kaisa leading the throne here for one team. Now it's 2 for 2 dragons, but Divine Esports has more because that's the Elder Dragon. So I think the Baron Nashor is the winning condition for any of these teams. Because when we're looking at it, this is very important. But Kid once again uses up the Cataclysm. Easy way out for Quay. And now Kid trying to 1v4, 1v5. Want to go with a 2-man knockup. Flag and drag zones away. Tries to go back, but Quay 2-man knockup as well. Hero's entrance comes in, will not connect onto anyone. Loses it down, but Coyote 2-man taunt. Kick coming from Sianyo cancels it. And Divine Esports very low for Hope 1. And the jump in. The bombs from Baya. Kills Hope 1. Kills Quay. Tonix gets killed. Len and Coyote the only one left. 5v2. One team goes away though. They wanted Baron Nashor instead.
Those are a lot of death timers, my friend. 36 seconds for your main carries. And it's only Len and Coyote left to try and steal. Everybody's so low on the side of one team. Divine Esports, can they hurry?
Sianyo almost gets killed by the Baron, and now it's Len coming up. But no, it's too late for Divine as one team gets the Baron.
That is a crazy set of events there. Divine Esports, we talked about this before. Hope 1 has a lot of crit. But, again, as that caster AD carry, you will have a fun time if everybody's pretty much clumped up together. But comparison to Ninja 7's impact in all of these autos as a Kaisa, especially late game, is just so painful. Everything's gonna count. Everything is just gonna shred you. And that is exactly what we saw. That's the reason why CU would constantly put the wild growth onto Ninja 7 every single time, especially before he just applies that killer instinct. And now we get to see one team. They can feel it. They can feel that they can still survive in this tournament. Divine Esports, though, what are their options? They can possibly get a fight that is prolonged, maybe get Len to see if he can dive towards the backline, but it's looking pretty grim at the moment.
Yeah, tier 2 turret into mid lane already down for Divine Esports as one team took it. Where can this go? Can this go into a distance into inhibitor turret? Because now Divine Esports is now on shackles, going for a split in mid lane and also bot lane as one team tries to look for that pivot, tries to look for that loophole. But Quay, very low, so much damage for one team. Hope 1 is isolated though. Sianyo almost gets a kick, but jumps back away instantly.
Lucky Divine has wave clear. They've got Hope 1 with so much AoE to clear down the waves. And the possible punish, if one team goes under the tower, Coyote's just going to greet them with a taunt.
Yeah, and Divine Esports is ready. Quay is ready. Everyone is ready from both teams who is going to take it down. But one team always gets it. But now Quay just jumps in, and that grand entrance with a quickness, massive onto Kid, puts him at half HP, and Divine Esports holding on so much up against one team. They cannot penetrate the inhib turret.
That is crazy. There was an attempt coming from Quay, but just as you mentioned, it is the satchel that is able to deny that possible engage, and maybe even to leading into the hero's entrance. Because at this point of the game, 23 minutes, death timers are going to be incredibly punishing. Look at Coyote, far away from everybody else. A little bit risky, but I mean, there is still the rest of the squad nearby. This is very tricky.
Coyote was dancing with the Angel of Death there. It was like so much risk, but he escaped cleanly, unscathed in that one. So Divine Esports right now, pretty much 4k gold deficit, but at this point in time, it's not much more about gold any longer because pretty much every single one has 4 core items, 5 core items, especially onto the ADCs of both teams. It's now more about your team coordination, how you would play this out.
Yeah, what my main worry now is that one team has double life, which is the Guardian Angel for Ninja 7 and as well as Zonia's Hourglass. Meanwhile, for Hope 1, yes, you do have that defense coming from the Phantom Dancer, but the biggest question is it enough? One team can reset the fight with just so much stalling that can happen here. Look at Divine, they're pushing through the waves.
Yeah.
Bot lane has waves climbing through the bottom portion of the map, so one team, if they're able to defeat Divine, they can just rush through that portion of that map. And now the goal is again, Baron. It's back up.
Oh, Kid jumps with a Cataclysm, locks onto Tanex, but once again gets away safely. And look at Xianyo, backside, gets on Quay, but Quay just jumps back in with a Battle Dance. Very safe for everyone for Divine, with the cost of 2 ultimates.
Looking at Coyote, he wants to join the fight. The wave has already been pushed towards bot and as well as top. So one team now at a small map control deficit because they're forced to respond to that. Divine now starting the Baron, possibly only using it as a bait. Remember, the reason why they lost game number 2, this could have been over, is because of the Baron. And I can understand why Divine is so incredibly hesitant because again, this is that elimination game. One will go home, one will still continue their journey to the C Championships.
Yeah, and a best of 3 towards the 3rd game, do or die for both teams, for Divine and one team. High risk, high stakes for both. One team now starting onto the Baron Nashor.
It's
the risk
so fast.
tolerant. Yeah, but Kaisa being there, it is so quick,
Len
it is so
flashing
efficient.
in.
But now,
Whoa,
it's
what?
one team getting the Baron with Ziggs, putting him down, and Divine Esports is fighting
Len.
this through. They want to remove that buff, but Cataclysm locks down onto everyone, and they will just get a raise. And now Hope won. Len, the only one left, and Stacy Sanchan buys a bit more time for Hope 1, but he will die. JA will pop, Satchel Charge will do it, and now it's one team taking everyone away. They're pushing with a Baron
way.
buff. They're going for the top lane. They're trying to finish this game. This might be over.
way.
30 seconds on the clock for Divine. 26 minutes in this game, and one team takes the game, takes the series up against Divine.
No way, because we saw you mentioned this, Infinity. Item locks happen. Phantom Dancer for the side of Hope 1. Don't tell me he wasn't present in the fight because he wanted to make sure he can match the Guardian Angel that Ninja 7 had, went back to base, replaced Phantom Dancer